I think spring has finally arrived. Nice 51-degree day. Most of the snow is gone. Today's video, back working on the 95 Impala SS. Getting it ready for Hot Rod Power Tour 2022. The issue we're working on today is my trunk leaks. Some of you might notice you get water in here, it stinks. You can't put a bunch of stuff in there, and you'll get these little puddles that pond up inside the quarter panels. That ain't good. That ain't good. So most any cars that are older have had some kind of body work on it. This is no exception. My quarter panel was hit, had a big dent right there. You can see the tape line right here where they painted it. And trunk has been obviously sprayed. That was before I got it. And there's a soft tape edge right here where they blended the clear together. So she's had a little bit of work done to her. And you might have seen the paint right there, primer, whatever it is. I think where they went through and they decided to put some weld-through primer or something on there to keep it from corroding. But I originally thought my trunk leak that this weather stripping, you can see it's kind of folded over and it's very loosely on here in spots. Well, I've constantly pushed it back and tried to figure it out, and it's not what it is. It's actually seating like it's supposed to. So searched all far and wide, looked under here, and you can see right in there, it looks like a little bit of something starting to come through right here. That could just be residual, but that is where a seam is on the top up here. So after doing my digging, I kind of thought, well, I got hit there. Where would it be coming from? And then I did some research, and lo and behold, this caulk that's on the back where the taillights, it's always hidden, tends to crack out. I'm going to ahead and clean mine up. You can see I got a split right there. I got a split up here. Split right there. And then right here, I don't know if it's seam sealers in there. Looks like I got a little bit of a rust spot. Maybe it was a crinkle in it, touch up with some paint. I don't know. But anyway, that seam is most likely where all my water comes through, because what happens is it rains, floods down this channel, comes in here, runs back here, which you can see it's all rusting out, and it's actually got a little crack right here, probably seeping in through here, seeping in through there, and then goes in. Thought maybe the taillight grommet was an issue where the holes are, but nope, it's this. One way to check it is you can lock yourself in there, have someone close the trunk, get a flashlight of course, and have someone spray the outside and see where it's leaking from. Mine leaks in right here on the seam, and it follows this little line of mine down and then dribbles down into the hole right here. What I was having was massive amounts of water sitting in there. That's not good. Can't let it sit outside. And for those who don't know, these cars underneath on the quarter panels have a little drain built into them. And you might be able to see that right there. Where's the other one? Other side? Maybe. Where'd you go? Oh, yeah. So right there. And they get plugged up with dirt. And when they get plugged up with dirt, the water doesn't drain. So it tells me two things. One, I got a problem. Two, GM knew these cars were going to be a problem, and they designed that little plug hole in there. So what are my options? Try to plug the leak? Yep. Clean out those holes? Yep. That's what I'm going to do. Those are my options. So to start, we're going to want to go through and clean this off. I somewhat cleaned it up just so you can point it out. It was a little dusty, but I'm going to start by taking some mineral spirits, cleaning up any dirt, grease, grime that's in there. I'm going to show you what I'm going to use to kind of seal that up for right now. There's a passenger side. You can see again it's starting to split and crack in all sorts of little places. So it's definitely aged for sure. We're just going to go ahead and clean on that. Get it all nice and clean. So now that you get that pocket cleaned up with your wax, grease remover, mineral spirits, whatever you got, it's going to leave a film on there. And you want to make sure and clean that up because you have to have something for the material we're going to use to stick to. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray up my sprayway. I'm using a different rag. Go ahead and wipe everything down and make sure it's nice and clean. Oh, and by the way, make sure to knock that clip out about 500 times so you have to continually put it back in from the bottom of the car because that's where it falls out from. That makes it fun. Always. Get it all nice and clean, especially the little areas you're going to be working at, because we're going to be applying paint and a special compound that we'll get into here. I need something to adhere to. But don't worry about the channels being all dirty. I'm going to do a detailed video coming up here, and I'll show you what I do to clean all that stuff up and make them, get it car show ready. So now that you got it cleaned, take a better look at it. You might unveil or reveal some other stuff. You can see that one's just pretty massive crack, and our side is on this side. It's pretty much that one. I don't really notice anything else that's wrong with it, but I do notice this little kink, and it's got some little bit of rust on it. Plus that's from the trunk hitting all the time. So we're going to address that here right now just because it's bothering me, and I can. I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. So I take a little 400 grit. It's for a DA that I got. And I like to feather edge that out. I'm going to do it on the other side too. I haven't looked yet. But you just want to go ahead and sand that out. Make some nice little swirls. Again, I like to use 400 grit to start with because you just want to smooth it out. You don't want to take down everything to the paint. When I say feather edge, what you're doing is you're actually taking the rough edges of that where it was all chutted away, and you're smoothing it out. You're going to, of course, mud up your clear and everything else, but it's dull. It's jam. It doesn't matter. We're going to address it. But just go ahead and smooth it out. Get all those rough edges off of it. And you'll know when you get it smooth. And again, work all your little spots that you might have that you want to address. So one good tip is you can bend these in half, get a nice edge. You can work them in these little nooks and crannies really well. And then sand down really what you want to do or get in there without a whole lot of stress. But I always keep these floating around in a spare box because little projects like this always come up, and they're always good to have on hand because you never know when you want to just randomly sand paint off your car and touch it up. So once you get that to your satisfactory liking, go ahead and take a red scratch pad, relatively inexpensive if you don't have any. And this is probably about 1,000 grit. If you were to compare it to sandpaper, maybe 1,200, maybe even 1,500. I don't remember. It's been a while. But what I'm saying is it's going to take down your 400 grit scratches a little bit more finer, and it's going to give you a little bit better adhesion for your paint to stick to. So when I was at the body shop, we used to use these on cutting in every single little nook and cranny, everything to make it look pretty. And I always said shiny paint was bad. They're right. So if you're trying to paint something, new paint's not going to stick to old shiny paint. So go ahead and make sure where you're going to paint is going to be nice and sanded up. That includes these little spots down here, which I still got to get after, and up under there. So I'm going to get these knocked down and then be back with you. Well, that escalated quickly. Started sanding down right there, and that kind of just disintegrated when I was sanding it. So I took my little pick here and I started chiseling away at it, and it kind of just all came apart like that. Same thing down here. I started digging into those cracks, and it was just coming apart relatively simple. Not good. You can see up in here, there's rust forming. So water's getting in underneath there, and that's going to rust out, and that'll eventually be rotted out. So we want to address that. And yep, we'll do that today too. Just have to clean up as best we can. So yeah, go through, make sure you got all your stuff cleared off. I got some cleaning to do and I'll be back. Okay, so when my quarter panel was hit, it stretched out this metal and forced all this stuff to go in and out. When they pulled it back together, it either cracked this or this was cracked in the accident. Well, it really wasn't an accident, it was in a car wash. The little roller thing was spinning and came through and smacked it. Anyways, so I went through and I knocked all the old crap off from there, the old filler, body filler, seam sealer, whatever GM called it. And you can see I went in there with my chisel and I scraped as much as I possibly could out of that because it was starting to rust. Got back in here. I actually sanded all this, and then I used my red scratch pad and I scratch padded all this up, scuffed all that up, re-cleaned it, scuffed those up, cleaned those as best I could. So now if we go over here to compare this side hasn't been hit, and you can see how well boogered up that is from the factory. The hold, that's solid, that's not going anywhere. That on the other side though was failed, and it was allowing moisture and stuff to get in there. Eventually that was going to rot out. So glad I caught that now. This, it looks like seam sealer. All those ones from here, those are just from body flexing and over the years of doing its thing. So we'll address those here later in the video. But for now, if you get yourself in a situation like this, just scrape everything you possibly can out of this little nook and cranny down as far into there as you can. You can see it goes in there a little ways. And this side too, just get it all in there because it's pinch weld. So this back plate comes to the quarter panel. So that's all cleaned up, and I actually had to get up into here too, which was surprising. But so let me show you what I'm going to do now. Firm believer, if you don't have some kind of a rust protecting enamel floating around in a rattle can, get some. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to take the lid from it. We're going to go ahead and fill up that little center spot just with some. We don't need much, just a little bit. And then I always have these from the dollar store, inexpensive little dollar brushes. Go ahead, dab on it, and we're going to fill in all inside this crack. And since it is the rust stuff, it's going to make sure and protect all of our metal in there, and then any rust that we couldn't reach, it's going to go ahead and convert that over to what it should be. So Put a couple coats on this. Get it all nice and covered. Let it dry. Put another coat on there. Anywhere where you got bare metal right now, go ahead and put this stuff. So even if you think there's a chance that something isn't bare metal, just go ahead and put a little drop of this stuff on there because it's not going to hurt it. And if it turns out it's not, great. Turns out that it is and you did it, great. Problem's going to be is when you don't get your paint all the way covered and it starts rusting out, you're going to wish that you went through and got those little spots. So another little spot that I do is like in here, I want to make sure to get quite a bit. So I fill up the brush with a lot and I'll jam it in there and I'll let it like kind of flood in there. And even though this is my first coat and I want to go lighter on the outside, I want it to run down inside that cavity to get as far in there as I can. Same thing with trying to get underneath this lip to get the top and bottom. So go ahead and just fill all your stuff in. And when you're done, if you got extra, you got little things you want to touch up, just go ahead and touch them up. It's not going to hurt anything. Might as well keep that from rusting out any further. So when you get all that to your liking and how you want it, both sides, wherever you're touching up, you're going to want to actually get touch-up paint. Now, there are a couple kinds of touch-up paint you can get. I actually have this, which is about 10 years old, from when I had my body shop gave me this. So it's the color that's here. It's actually a little off because my eyeballs, I can tell that the color doesn't completely match and I can see where they blended it, and it just hasn't bothered me enough to do anything, but it's not a true dark cherry. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's close enough right now. You can also go on, buy one of these AC Delco. It's our true original paint color. Of course, for the dark cherry metallic, it's 9800. If you guys don't know where to find that, your little SPID code, which is in the trunk there, it'll tell you the last couple digits. Mine just happens to be 9800. If it's black, it's 8555. If it's dark green, gray, metallic, I don't recall what that is off the top of my head. So I'm going to use this because I've had it forever. It's got a little marble in it. Shake, shake, shake it up. And it's also got a little lid paintbrush with it, like so. So you can tell it looks more purplish than it does that, but it's going to be covered up, so who cares? So go ahead and just goop on as much or as little as you want to make it look pretty or not. Maybe I should put the camera where I'm painting. It's kind of hard to look at two things at once. Right away, I can already tell it doesn't match. Oof. But we're gonna go through and touch it all up and then we'll see what it looks like. So it is much more gooder as it dries. You can see it darkened up a lot more and it's not as purplish. It's still a little wet in there. We're gonna let that dry for a couple more minutes. I did not touch this up yet because I wanted to see how this was going to turn out. And considering that when it dried, it actually didn't do too bad, I think we're going to go ahead and just go to town with it and not open up my AC Delco one, because this is going to be for upcoming video with touch-up stuff on the clear on the outside for chips and then wet sanding and buffing. So I'm going to go ahead and touch that up now with my old paint and see what it looks like. Okay, while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and move on to this channel. I have a theory that water kind of seeps down and in here. This seal is kind of weak. So you can see my lip is a little bent. So we're going to go through and we're going to straighten that out. Just take a pair of pliers or something, just get it mostly straight. It's also got this sealant on it, kind of like this goop. That's actually stuff that we want. It's like rubber cement, but it's kind of deteriorated to the point where it's not very sticky anymore. So after we go ahead and work that and get it where we want it to, I'm going to clean this channel up with some cleaner. Get all this dust and crap off. Get the majority of this. Looks like they actually use rubber cement. Now I'm trying to rub it off. Anyways, we're going to clean that all up. And then we're going to repack this seal after we clean it out with some stuff to help adhere it better to that lip. Actually, I'm going to use this crescent wrench because it kind of fits in there a little bit well. And we're just going to go through in our low spots. We're going to just kind of bend them up so they're all kind of uniform across. So I went ahead and I cleaned all that up, bent it straight, got it where I wanted to. Now I'm going to take some brake clean, spray it on a rag, and wipe that down. Actually going to apply it to the rag first and get it on here. And what this is going to do is it's going to pretty much loosen up this gunk from the old, you know, glue that was on there. And it's going to clean up that channel really well. I went ahead and I spray cleaned it with spray away just to kind of get some of that stuff too. But this is kind of a good, gooder, better. I'm going to bite down to the paint a little bit harder, kind of cleaning like we want. Because you want to get all this junk off of there. You want it sticky. You want it, you know, kind of like you just had a big peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you dripped a bunch of that jelly on your hand and you're like, oh, what do I gotta do now? And then you go back to work and you forget about it, and then it's like an hour later and it's dried and you're like, oh yeah, why is my hand sticky? So that sandwich that I had, that was really good. And then you got everything sticking to it. It's kind of how you want this to feel. Yeah, it's getting there. So if you don't know, you're gonna know the name butyl, B-U-T-Y-L-E. Sealant tape. That's what it looks like. It's black, it's tacky, it's pliable, and it's really sticky. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that, bits and pieces of it, and we're going to jam it into the seal of our weather stripping, and then we're going to jam it onto our lip. That's going to hold that into place back up in there to keep it from sliding out and doing what it's going to do. And it's also going to prevent water from seeping up and underneath into our trunk. So we're going to take it, just kind of lay it out. For how much you're going to need. Break it off. It's like Laffy Taffy. And go ahead and start in one end of your seal. Doesn't matter which end. Just wedge it in all the way across. You can see my paint is dried. It actually dried a lot darker than I thought it would have, which is good. I just kind of blobbed a bunch up here because why not? And now we're going to go through and we're going to do the sealing process. So the same stuff that I applied on that seal, the butyl, we're going to take it and we're going to put it into here as a seam sealer. And to do that, just take a chunk and wedge it in there. You guys can do it however you prefer. I'm going to get a piece about just a little shorter than what it is. Since it's going to be more noticeable in this area, I'm just going to kind of stretch it out just a little bit. But I'm going to work it into these little spots top side, bottom side of that metal. Just pack it in all of the little areas where you think you might be getting water in. Okay, so taillights put back in. Of course, I gotta throw the bolt in and wait for the paint to dry on those. That's what it looks like. Can't even see it other than here and here. And if you're looking that hard, then yeah. So it's all covered up. Same thing on that side. I did do some touch up in there because it was looking kind of dreary. So now we're going to pull the carpet out, and I'm going to get this thing down, and we're going to go take it on a test drive to the car wash and see what kind of leaks we get. Well, in the car wash, gassed up, the gauge is off. I'm gonna have to fix that. Alright, once I get done washing, I'll pull out and then we'll check the trunk and see. Well, we got water. Looks like from here, here, and yeah. So I think we're gonna have to address the sill. What about down there? Don't see anything. Don't see anything over here. Okay, so what I ended up doing was I took my brute force in my hands. I kind of lifted up, got the seal bent up a little bit more. I also twisted the knobbies down. Still got good gaps in my body lines. Okay, so got that leak hopefully taken care of. I'm gonna give it its first real good wash. You gonna stop now? Okay. Check and see how the trunk is after we just soaked it with pressure washer. Well, would you look at that? This was our culprit. It looks like we still got some more coming right there, which we can easily just kind of hit. Yep. And that should solve our leaking water issue. All right. That makes me happy. Cool. So what I'm going to do while it's in the garage here is I'm going to go through, give it a nice coat of ceramic coating, clean up any little spots that I missed, tire shine the wheels, and give it a quick vacuum on the inside. And that's going to wrap it up, really. So yeah, I'm going to do that. Wash the windows because I hate dirty windows. And that's about it. So, thanks for watching. See you next time.